Yo, what's up legends? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to do a massive project walkthrough of this absolute club weapon. This is my new track Rave Room, which is actually out now on Revealed. It's my latest release. I have a new one coming on Friday on Rave Culture. The grind does not stop, let me tell you that. So this track, a little bit of info about this. I made this specifically for my first setback, which was in close to my hometown, Newcastle. And I just wanted to make something that was going to get the crowd going, you know, something I could interact with. And this is where this main drop kind of originated from. I wanted something where the energy can just die, everyone kind of guessing what's going to happen, then the synth comes in, boom, 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 and it's just a simple drop, but it's really driving, and it really does the trick. So that is basically how the main drop goes. If you haven't already heard it, what you're doing, please go and give me a few extra streams. This one is built for the clubs, really. It's starting to perform quite well with other DJs as well. Usually, specifically my kind of music, our kind of music, if you're into big room as well, especially the faster stuff, doesn't really get played on podcasts, right? People like to play the future rave, the softer stuff, because it's easier to listen to on a radio show. So our kind of music never really gets big support anymore, not like it did back in the days, because big room was the main thing. So every radio show was fully big room, right? But this one's actually performing quite well, even though it's 145 BPM, which surprised me. But it's a great club track, and it seems to work. Every time I've played it, it just goes off. That synth, such a simple melody. You don't need crazy melodies nowadays, as long as your sound design is good, and you'll see all of these automations and stuff help keep this simple, boring melody exciting, right? So I think it's just about right that we jump straight into the drop, and then we'll go into the first intro drop, and then we'll look at the breakdown and stuff as well in this episode. Let's talk about the bass line first. Now the bass line, I believe it's just one sound. I believe it's just this main sound. Now I love this sound because it's gritty. It also has that whoom, whoom, this kind of wobble sound which creates movement. It's not just a big room kick, you know. If I made this track with a big room kick, it would just feel like stagnant, flat, a bit boring. So this one has a little bit of a swing to it as well, with a kick. Kind of techno influenced. I'm not saying it's techno, trust me. It's very EDM with the sharp kick and everything, but it has that techno kind of rhythm to it, and that dark rhythm, which I really like as well. So on top of this, we have this drum enhancer. I love using these drum enhancers from Kashmir because they really add a different level of texture to your drums. This just sounds so much better. Adds a bit of energy as well. We also have this, which I obviously don't have. Shout out Kevu, I was going to use a big room kick, but this one, as you can see on the waveform, the big room kick is just boom, but this one is whoom, 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 provides way more movement in the track as well, so that's why I did go for that. And I think that is pretty much it in terms of the bass line. We have the classic drum enhancer that I used in disco. Again, something I did not use. I really need to look at the projects before I hit record. But anyway, this sounds sick, so I don't know why I left it out. It adds such a transient to your kick, and it also has a bit of a stereo appeal to it, so you can hear it in the left headphone if you're using headphones. And it sounds great, so I'm actually kicking myself because I really don't know why I took that out. But the bass line, as you can see, is so simple. Like I found a bass shot and just processed it a little bit. This was a sub bass, so I really needed to get all of those subby frequencies so that it felt warm enough. As you can see, I've done quite a few boosts there because this sound was a bass sound. It wasn't a sub sound, right? It's got good bass already. I just needed to boost the sub section and give it that kind of low end power. So that's what we have on the bassline side of things. I'll try not to make any more mistakes saying that I added a sound when I actually didn't. I think we have to look at the drop lead. It's this. So it's a super simple melody. The these low notes are really cool though. And where did I generate this lead from? It's literally two sounds, only two sounds. The main one, which is a future rave sound, but I've really took it to the next level. I think if we take off everything, this is what it sounded like before. This is like a cat, and this is like a lion. The difference is huge. Let's look at what I did on this main sound, because the main sound is all you need. Literally all you need. This other sound we'll get into later. It's just to make it even punchier and even more clicky, right? So this main sound, we have a camel crusher as always. I left the mix on full. Nowadays I don't do that. I feel like I'm pushing my sounds too much sometimes, so I like to dial it back a little bit. Same with the blood overdrive. This is the settings I use always. I use probably like a quarter of the preamp distortion and like quite a lot of color, because I don't want this sound to just be dull, right? We have the Fab Filter Satin, where I boosted the mids and the highs, in touching the low end. We have an S1 imager, which I don't really use too often actually anymore, but this one is trying to push the lead wide, right? We've got a lot of sounds down the center in mono, so we want this one to be wide. Transient master, making it really sharp, but bringing the sustain back, making the sound really short, so it's sharp and short rather than just long and like with no transient basically. We have an EQ trying to get those mids a little bit warmer and slamming the highs, of course. Then we have another EQ just really focusing on the mids. A bit of a crazy EQ there, but with this sound, it was quite thin to begin with. The Future Rave sounds aren't the thickest of sounds, you know, like ones you can get in Nexus, so I had to really make the mids a lot more boosted so it would feel more full. We have the Art Acoustic Reverb, which is triggered with the peak controller. As you can see, it's just gone crazy over there. You just right click, link to controller, and select the peak controller, and every time it detects a note plays, it stops the reverb. But I think you guys know that already. We have an endless smile for build-ups and stuff, so it's not too important. Again with this mid-boost EQ. And then I did some scientific stuff, and I took out some surgical EQs there. I was just trying to find the really harsh stuff, and I was just bringing them down, because I obviously pushed it too much. Most people will go back and fix their mistake. I just add another thing and fix that mistake, you know. That's why I have 300 Pro Q3s in every single track. We have, again, probably wasn't happy with what I'd done on the surgical EQ, so I added it again. Now I think that they're different frequencies that I'm boosting there, so it's not too bad. And then we have a sidechain, which is quite loose, to be honest. This has a really clicky feel to the lead, so I wanted to make sure the sidechain didn't get rid of all of that transient, because I did a lot of work trying to get this transient to be good. The second layer is this one. I don't think you could use that in a track on a big label. I think it's just too sampley, and it's just not good enough. But together, these two really fit like a glove. Absolutely perfect. The thing that my Serum lead was missing was transient. The thing that this has is transient, and they just fit perfectly together. Process them exactly the same way, but then we get something like this so far in the track. So there is the main theme of the track. That's pretty much what most of you remember from the track anyway, that I've already heard it. We can look at all the other stuff I've done. For example, I've increased the Art Acoustic wet knob. It's important with a melody like this, boom, But you need to create some movement and some rhythm in there. So I felt like the Arts Acoustic Reverb wet knob automation would be enough. Boom, sh, boom, sh, and it creates that like smooth rhythm as opposed to just boom, boom, like big room. You know, this was a little bit more groovy than that, and it creates a nice little swell there. Now, in addition to that, I wanted to add some extra transient. So that's where I added this little hi-hat. Now, all I did to the hi-hat was add the American high gain. So this is what the hi-hat was like before. Quite harsh, right? And the American high gain just give it... I've been doing this a lot. I did it in frequency, for example, to get that really low hi-hat sound, and it just sounds great, and it just added that extra body and power to the sound. Again, with the rhythm, I wasn't quite happy, so I added some reverse synths as well. This is so important, man. This is so important because it's just added production, and it just makes it sound so much more professional, right? So if we add the kick in, you'll really notice. So yeah, that makes just a huge difference. Other stuff that we have, big wobble sounds, big bass sounds. This was really, really important to make sure that the pre-drop would work properly. I left all the kicks out. So this had to be really, really impactful, right? It had to make a big difference there. We have little FX stuff. Just little random sounds. We have acid sounds, which works really well with the bass line and with the toms. When you bring the kick in, it just creates that big room rhythm. It's more of a techno tom as opposed to an EDM tom, because I still want that techno influence, because that's what's fresh. You know, if it was just a big room layout, it would just be boring, right? Got another acid sound as well. Then we come to the fill section. This section needs to have something there. Now, in most tracks, you kill the kicks, right? And you just have like a drum fill or something. In this track, I wanted to keep the kicks going because it was more of a techno influenced track. So all I did was add a respace. So that is just a preset, which I have processed with Blood Overdrive and EQ, put some reverb on, then took it off. Sidechain as well. The sidechain should be on there. I think the sidechain turns on in the track. But apart from that, it was just a simple pattern. D sharp to the D sharp to the D sharp. It sounded really, really cool. Really gritty, and it has that kind of stamped feel from like a couple of years ago, which I just really liked. We have some crashes here and white noise and stuff. Always adds to the energy. We have this, I think this is an acid line, which just kind of sits in the background. Yeah, nice. Got to make sure it fits with the actual pattern of your lead though, but things like this just provide some extra depth to the song as well. Nice little donk. Now with these sounds, I'm just literally trying all sounds, and if they work, I keep it. If they don't work, I move to the next sound. I literally shift and just click my arrow button down, and every sound in a sample pack I try in my track. But this is nice. But these are sounds that you might not recognize from the song. Like, even listen to this, I'm like, whoa, I can't really recognize it, but it gives that extra rhythm, this offbeat rhythm. In terms of drums, we're obviously going to have some hi-hats, simple, and some rolls as well. That's the best way to get extra energy, by having these rolls. Lots of notes means more energy, means faster, right? If you have a drop with just dirt, it's going to have less energy and feel less fast than a or so that's a big tip. These rolling hats really add like a lot of energy as well. And apart from that, I think that's pretty much it for the drop. Now I wanted to do an extra drop. I think because, especially since it was like 2.5 minutes at this point only, I did want to have an extra drop, but I wanted this drop to be a little bit different and just more energy, right? So the only difference there is I added some crowd noise and changed the melody to like so it's got an extra note in there, which again should make it feel faster, which in turn will make it feel like it has more energy. In terms of the build-up, it's pretty simple. I think both build-ups are very simple, so we'll go through only one of the build-ups. We'll go through this one here. Build-ups, all you need is build-up snares and risers and stuff like that. I guess you guys know that already. Let's see what I used. So I used a techno kick underneath some snares. So without the techno kick under the snares felt a bit thin. But now, you really feel them. In addition to that, we have the standard risers. So we have quite a lot of techno risers. I think that was kind of the theme with this song. Some vocal textures, trance. Also a little bit of a reverse into the build snares because I'm fancy like that. Just literally bounce one out and then click reverse. But again, all these things just make transitioning so easy. But yeah, this is pretty much why I call this track Rave Room, because it kind of is everything that I am doing with my new sound. It's using sounds from techno, sounds from trance, from hardstyle, old hardstyle, just all these different genres that I love, trying to bring it together in tracks in one song kind of thing. So that's why I called it Rave Room. So as you can see, it's such a simple build up there. I knew that this section was the thing that was going to be, next level. So that the thing before, I didn't worry too much about it. I didn't have to put too much production there. But this section is where all the energy comes. So what I did here is I just left it really empty. Increase the reverb, just had it tail off, and then we come to this section. When you play this live, man, the crowd really loves that. It catches them off guard. They're not used to it. So I have this old school sound, which I actually added ghost beat from FL Studio and added this trance gate, so it sounded a lot cooler. This is really old school rave. Like, this is where I get a lot of my inspiration from, tracks like using this kind of sound. So it was good to get that in there. We also have the drop lead playing this kind of sound. I just opened off the cut off with it. We have the reverse lead as well. And then the lead comes back in. So it's good to have that lead playing a different pattern there, because it's good to link the lead with the build-up, you know. So it's good to use that same sound again, and it sounds really sick when it's I loved it. In the second half, I changed it up again because I'm fancy like that. I decided to go for an LFO technique. So after the build-up, it does this, and what I did there was automate this knob within the scene preset. As you can see, I just drew an automation, and also I added some panning, so it pans left to right really fast. Now the way I did that was adding a wave, so the wave allows it to have that crazy effect. If you don't select wave, it's just going to go side to side quite stagnantly. Made it stereo as well. Actually started super mono and made it stereo, so it's like and the drop comes in again. But this was a really, I know it looks complicated, but a really cool simple technique.